Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make a strawberry chiffon shortcake, and this is what it looks like. Pretty impressive cake. It's got 2 layers of a golden chiffon cake, and then we're going to fill it and top it with whipped cream and a strawberry compote. So the first thing you will need to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then normally when we make a chiffon cake, we would use one of these 10-inch, 25-centimeter tube pans. But we're going to do something a little different because I want to make a layer cake. So we are going to use 2 9-inch with 2-inch sides. So that's 23 by 5 centimeters. And then don't grease your pans, but line the bottoms with a piece of parchment paper. The reason you don't grease your pans is you want the batter to cling to the sides of the pan as it bakes. So now, let's move this out of the way. For our batter, if you have a stand mixer like I have here, you will need your paddle attachment, or you could use a hand mixer for this. The first thing we're going to do is to mix our dry ingredients. So you need 2 cups, which is 240 grams of cake flour. Cake flour is a soft wheat flour, and it will give our chiffon cake a really nice, soft and tender crumb. You will also need 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated white sugar. And chiffon cakes it's kind of like a sponge cake, but we do add baking powder. So you will need 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon, 2 grams of salt. I like to use a kosher salt. I mean, you could use table salt. Kosher salt is a little milder tasting. So I'm going to just, with my paddle attachment, just mix the dry ingredients together. Okay, so now just kind of make a well in the center of your dry ingredients, because I'm going to add all of our wet ingredients. So you will need a half a cup, 120 milliliters, 120 grams, just of water. And then a half a cup, 120 milliliters, 120 grams of a flavorless oil. Now that could be like a vegetable, a corn, a canola, even a safflower oil. And that, the oil's going to really make a nice moist chiffon cake. And what's good too about oil instead of butter is that we can refrigerate the cake and it won't get solid. It'll still stay really nice and soft and moist. For flavoring, we're going to add 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of pure vanilla extract. And then, well, this kind of has the texture of an angel food cake. The difference is we are adding egg yolks. So you will need 7 large egg yolks, have them at room temperature, and that will be about 120 grams if you want to weigh. Go by weight. Now, if you don't, you could actually do this part by hand. You don't really even need a mixer, because all I'm going to do is put my mixer on medium speed and just mix this until you get a nice smooth batter. Probably stop a couple times, scrape down the sides and the bottom of your bowl to make sure everything is mixed together. Okay, so we're done. That's pretty simple. So now what we're going to do is we're going to beat egg whites. We're going to actually make like a meringue. And then we're going to add it to that batter. And that is going to give us that really wonderfully light and airy chiffon cake. So you will need your whisk attachment. Again, you could use a hand mixer for this. And you will need 8 large egg whites if you want to go at room temperature. If you want to go by, which would be about a cup, which is 240 milliliters, 240 grams of egg whites. Put that in there. Now I'm going to beat these just on low speed until the whites get nice and frothy. Okay, so now, show you, they're just nice and foamy. So what I'm going to do is add a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And what that will do is it helps to stabilize your whites. It helps you from overbeating them. And you can normally find cream of tartar on the spice aisle of your grocery store. If you cannot find cream of tartar, you could just use a half a teaspoon of lemon juice. It does the same thing. So what I'm going to do is continue to beat this on medium speed until we get soft peaks. Okay, so we're at these soft peaks. One way you can tell is you will start to see the tracks of your whisk in the whites. That's how you can tell you are at the soft. As you can see, nice and foamy. So now we are going to increase our speed to high and gradually add a half a cup, 100 grams. Now you can use either a granulated white sugar or you can even use a super fine sugar. But do it gradually, let that, because we want that sugar to dissolve into the whites, and we are going to beat this just until we have firm peaks, nice and shiny. So. Okay, so we're done. As you can see, nice firm peaks. Oh, gorgeous. Another way you can tell when your meringue is done is if you take a bit and rub it between your fingers. You want to make sure that there's no gritty feeling. You want to make sure that that sugar has dissolved completely. So just extra little check there to make sure your meringue is done. So now we're going to add the meringue into our batter. The meringue's light, the batter's heavy, so I am going to do this in stages, about 3-4 stages. Add a bit to lighten it, and whenever you're doing this, big strokes, and make sure you get to the bottom of your bowl. It's up and over, cut through the center, and then when you have most of it, fold it in, add a little more. You want big strokes, and you want to make sure you don't overmix, because then you start to deflate your whites, and then you won't get as much volume with your chiffon. I did, as you notice, transfer my batter to a real nice wide bowl. It makes it a little easier than the tall and narrow to fold, but you don't have to do this. And and such a gorgeous batter. Oh. And it makes such a nice, light, airy, but yet moist cake. I mean, it's just good on its own. And it keeps well. You can freeze the cake. Okay, that looks good. You want to mix it till you don't see any streaks of the meringue. And as always, make sure you around the edge. Make sure, and in the center, the bottom, it always seems to, you gotta make sure you get to the bottom of the batter. So now you want to evenly divide your batter between your two pans. If you have a scale, use it for this. You will need about 560 grams in each of your pans. I find it much easier just to weigh it. Yeah, about right. It was about just over 560, so Swirl that around. Then I just like to settle. So for baking these, always, like if you have two pans, make sure there's a little distance between the two so the air can get all the way around the pan. Everyone's oven, a little different. I find between 25 and 30 minutes, they will rise. They will actually come up usually a little above the pan, turn a beautiful golden brown. Toothpick inserted into the center will come out clean. Okay, so our chiffon cakes are done. You can see they've risen nice or beautiful golden brown. Toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Now, with a chiffon cake, you can't cool it like normal, just like this. We have to turn them upside down. If you've ever baked them in a tube pan, you know you always have to turn the tube pan. So we have to do the same with just a regular cake pan. How I do this is I put a piece of paper towel. One, I do that for a couple reasons. One, because if you just turn it upside down on your pan, you will get the tracks of the rack, which we don't want. And two, it absorbs moisture as it cools. So I just leave them like that in the pan. Now that will take hour and a half. You want them to completely cool. If I was to just let them sit like this, they're going to shrink. As you can already see, this one has come down a little. Another thing I meant to say, if you could use a tube pan for this at 10-inch, 25 centimeter tube pan. If you want to do that, the baking time will be about 50 to 60 minutes. So I'm just going to leave both of these cooling hour and a half before we take them out of the pans. So while that's happening, we will make our strawberry compote. You will need 2 pounds, 900 grams of fresh strawberries. If you live in the States, normally they come in these plastic tubs. You will need 2 of the tubs. And you want to wash your strawberries. You want to take the tops off. And then, you know, with a compote, you want kind of big chunks of strawberries. So what I do, you want to roughly, you know, pretty big chunks. And just put it into a saucepan along with, always taste your fruit. It is really hard to tell. You know, I can give you an amount of sugar, but it depends on the sweetness of your strawberries. So you will need somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 cup, which is 65 to say 100 grams. You might want to start off with a little less, and then you can always add more sugar later. So what we're going to do is put this over medium heat, and I'm going to give it a stir, and we're going to let that sugar dissolve and let it come up to a simmer. And I'll show you what to do when we get to that point. So now our strawberry compote, as you can see, has come up to a simmer. I'm going to reduce the heat. I want to keep it at a simmer, so I'm going to turn it down just a little. You can see, look at all the juices already. The strawberries are starting to soften. So I'm going to let this cook somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. A compote to me is like a cross between a strawberry sauce and a strawberry jam. So we don't want it, we want the juices to kind of thicken, but not to the point like it's really thick like a jam, but thicker than a sauce. So it's kind of in between there. And you want the strawberries to break down and become nice and soft and tender, but not like mush. So I find about 10 to 15 minutes on a simmer. Our strawberry compote is now done. I'll just take it off the heat. So as you can see, lots of juices. They're nice and thick. Our strawberries are really soft. So what we're going to do is add 1 tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. That's going to really help to bring out that strawberry flavor. Stir that in. Now this is going to thicken as it cools, because what we're going to do is let this cool and then we're going to cover it and put it into the refrigerator. I like to make it at least the day before, but what's great is you can put this into the refrigerator and it will stay for like 7 to 10 days, so it's really great. So that's what I'm going to do, let it cool, cover it, put it into the refrigerator, and then when we come back, we will whip our cream and assemble our cake. So our cakes have cooled about an hour, hour and a half, so we can remove them from their pans. So just peel off your paper towel and then take I'm using an offset spatula, use a knife, and run it on the inside of your pan, because it is sticking. One more time. Yeah, I think that's good. We'll give it a try. Just take your rack, put it on top, flip it over, and hopefully pan will come off. There we go. Now you will notice chiffon cakes, because they stick to the batter sticks to the sides of the pan as they rise, there is going to be some of the batter attached, and then we're just going to peel off. Now some people don't like the rough sides. You can kind of just take your hand and brush those loose crumbs off so that you don't have like the color uneven. So the crust, I guess you'd call that. So if you want to do that, you can. So now for our cream, you will need 1.5 cups, which is 360 milliliters of cold, heavy whipping cream, and that's cream with a 35 to 40% butterfat content, or what that means is when I beat it, it will hold stiff peaks. I'm just going to put that. I'm using my stand mixer fitted with the whisk attachment. You could just use a hand mixer, or really, it's kind of elbow grease there, but you can use a wire whisk to do this. And then sugar to taste. I find for this amount of cream, I'm adding about 3 tablespoons, 35 grams of granulated white sugar. Like I said, if you like your cream less sweet, more sweet, you can adjust that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start like at low speed and gradually work it up to high speed. I'm going to beat this until it's almost stiff peaks. Watch it carefully, because at the end you don't want it to turn to butter, so kind of watch what's going on. Looks about done. I'm just going to check it. It's better to check it and it's underdone than overdone. So I'm just going to give this. Yeah, that's what I want. Now, if you did happen to over whip your cream, which happens, what you can do is just add a little more heavy cream to that, and then I would do it by hand, whisk it in, and the little bit of cream will thin it out, and then you can just whip it till you get your desired consistency. So now I'm just going to clean this up. We'll come back and we'll assemble our strawberry chiffon shortcake. To assemble our cake, take your serving platter. I'm using a cake pedestal here. Put 1 layer down, and then put about half of your cream top. And you want to do this, shortly before you're going to serve the cake. You can do it a couple hours ahead and put it into the refrigerator, but typically I like to assemble it and then serve it. I'll just spread that out. And also, if you don't want to make like a real, this is quite a tall cake, you could just make one layer. I often do that just for the family. So there we have that. Maybe just touch more cream. And then we have our strawberry compote. I did make this like yesterday, and then I let it sit overnight, and you can see it thickens up. So just put a bunch on here as much as you want. If you have any leftover compote after you make this dessert, it is great over ice cream, yogurt. Sometimes I just even put it on toast, or if you have some scones, it'd be very good. And like I said, it lasts like probably at least 10 days in the refrigerator, so you can make it well ahead of time. So I'm going to be very generous here. And then I kept this one. This one looks a little better on the top than the other one, so that's why. Just put it like that. And if you want, you can put a little sprinkling powdered sugar over there. Really, you could just serve it like that, but we're going to put even more cream. And spread that out. Slide in there. Okay, looks good. And then looks so good. I like that, you know, you can just cut up fresh strawberries and let them sit in sugar. That's what a lot of people do. But I find that the strawberry compote is really intensifies the flavor of the strawberries, and then it's got a lot of juice, which I like. So there we have it. Like I said, you could put this in the fridge for a few hours, but we are going to cut it now. It's a big cake. It's a casual looking cake. That's what I like, you know, for summer. And you could use other fruits, really. Whoop. Let's see if I can get this out without making a mess. Plate. Oh. Oh. So there we have our strawberry chiffon shortcake. And if you didn't get enough compote, you could just, you know, even put a little more over the top. So I like to make a little extra because you could even have extra cream on the side because some people like that. More cream, the better. That, it's excellent. Wow. The golden chiffon cake, not too sweet. It is really moist, nice and spongy. As you can see, it'll absorb the strawberry juices. And you put that with whipped cream and then the strawberries. Excellent dessert, perfect for the summer. So try this one. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyabaking.com.